ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andrew Stott, and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today, I want to discuss the comparisons that's been made between Stomaria and Aeternia. So over the last few months, we've received an increase in the number of comments, of messages, and of emails that have been trying to ask us if we would consider burying the hatchet with Aeternia, and others going on to try to compare Stomaria to Aeternia for whatever reason. I don't know if we're being discussed by the Aeternian community in some form or another, and it's filtering down towards us through that means, or if there's some other factor that I'm not aware of. But as I say, over the last few months, this has become a lot more prevalent, and I'm not really sure why. For my part, I've not really given any thought to Aeternia for the better part of a year now, since we made the Stomaria's Greatest Mistakes video, and ever since then, it's not really been something that I've given any serious thought to. Now, for those that don't know, and I'm not going to go into a detailed history of this because we have discussed it in previous videos, but Aeternia was a micronation that Stomaria was actually looking to forge closer ties with towards the end of 2021 and into 2022, and this lasted for about 6 months or so. I agreed to be interviewed by AP of Aeternia for their YouTube channel. We commissioned artwork on their behalf, and there was even talks about the possibility of Stomaria contributing a small amount of money towards their land purchase, alongside a token trade deal which we initiated in December 2021. But in the end, this trade deal that we initiated in December 2021 in order to build closer ties with Aeternia actually ended with us outright condemning AP of Aeternia in April 2022, with most of our goods coming back to us in January 2023, and that's only because someone else footed the bill on AP's behalf. So it goes without saying that there is some level of animosity between Stomaria and Aeternia. I have made videos about this before, I have discussed this at length in times past, and I don't really want to go over all of that again. But if you are interested in finding out more, then you can find our videos on this matter. Now, when it comes to comparing Stomaria with Aeternia, I understand where this comes from. I understand that people like to have a lineup. They like to compare all of these different groups and all of these different entities, be they micronations or nations or communes or whatever they might define themselves as. But for the most part, these kind of comparisons are pretty nonsensical and they're a bit pointless, because for those that are not aware, and by this point you should be, a lot of these different entities or communities that might define themselves as nations or micronations or whatever else, they are more often than not all striving for something completely different. Very rarely does it have anything to do with actually building a nation, despite what the name or the terminologies might suggest. However, with Stomaria and Aeternia, I think there is this perception from a lot of people out there, on the face of it at least, that Stomaria and Aeternia are looking to accomplish similar things. We're of a similar age, we're looking to accomplish similar goals, and we have perhaps the same amount of notoriety and popularity, I suppose. A greater number of followers than most, but certainly not as well known as some of the larger micronations of the world, for instance. And so there is this inclination from people to try to compare Stomaria with Aeternia, because there is something to compare against, at least up until a certain point, which is what we'll get to in this video. So with all that said, I did think it would be an interesting video to make, to have a comparison between Stomaria and Aeternia. But before we get into the meat of this video, there are a few caveats that we need to go through to make sure everyone is crystal clear on what this video actually is. So first of all, I obviously am fully aware of where Stomaria is in the world. I know what we've accomplished, I know where we've come from. There are no issues on that front. With Aeternia, that is less clear in a lot of circumstances. That is to say, Aeternia is relatively notorious for having 2, 3, 4 hour live streams, for instance, and have done this for many, many years. And if there is a snippet of information within one of these 4 hour live streams from 18 months ago, I'm not going to get that. I'm not going through every single video, I'm not going through every single post. If it's not immediately clear what they stand for or what they've accomplished and all the rest of it, by looking at their website or by skimming through some of their social media content, then assumptions will be made. Second, I don't claim to be the most impartial person to be making this video, to be making this content. But everything that I'm about to talk about regarding Aeternia comes from Aeternia's website, from their documents, and from their videos. So everything that I'm going to be talking about is in the public space. It's something that I can see, and it's something that everyone else can see as well. And lastly, in case it's not clear, this is supposed to be one of our more light-hearted videos. It is just for fun. There is nothing scientific or impartial about what you're about to see. But it is something that I think is going to highlight for a lot of people the differences between Stomaria and Aeternia, even if those differences aren't always immediately obvious. So with all of that said, let's get started. According to their foundation and principles document, Aeternia was founded on the 20th of August 2016, just under 8 years ago. Stomaria was founded on the 16th of June 2019, a little over 5 years ago, making Aeternia about 3 years older than Stomaria. Aeternia has published content relatively consistently for the past 6 years, with the latest publication regarding works on their land. Stomaria has likewise published content consistently for the past 5 years, with the latest publication also regarding works on the land. According to Aeternia's societal values on their foundation and principles document, they believe that the ideal and most productive form of society is one that provides for all of the needs of all of its citizens. This seems to be a rephrasing of the communist doctrine from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs. And while there is no mention of any specific objectives on their website, this kind of rhetoric is reinforced by much of the published content on their social media accounts. For instance, their video explaining why landlords are evil.
If we all want to bring things into a more natural and sustainable way of being, the only answer is to regulate. To regulate not only the amount of people or large corporations that can own land and how much land they get to own, but also adding regulation in that mandates for livable land for people a minimum amount that has to live on that property. If it is something that can have homes on it, it needs to have homes on it, and that needs to be subsidized by the government. And finally, putting in regulation that requires rent be at a minimum, such that people who are trying to work and make a living for themselves in this society are guaranteed a place to live in this society. Because the fact is, these landlords can profit. They shouldn't be able to profit at the expense of people living on the street.
Their video on economics that recommends that you take a socialist attitude when establishing an economy.
So even if you are somebody who says, I enjoy capitalism, I like trying to limit taxes as much as possible on the people who are a part of my society, you may want to consider initially some more socialist attitudes toward the ground foundational elements of your economy.
Or by forming an alliance with a self-defined Marxist-Leninist micronation, something that they call the Great Unification. This is something that they considered an important enough event to declare it a national holiday. Stomaria advocates for social conservatism and libertarianism, emphasizing the importance of family, freedom, and fatherland, believing in the importance of building a cohesive and sustainable society based on shared values that revolve around providing for yourself and your family, minimizing the state's involvement in your life, and respecting the natural rights of others. That's why Stomaria is an advocate for voluntary taxation, environmental protection, renewable energy, commodity money, and more besides. Because this lessens the power of the state and helps to establish a sustainable future. Aeternia's approach can be described as mixed, to put it mildly. It's repeatedly claimed to be serious about what it's doing, but it's exceptionally satirical and meme-like. And this has been the case since its foundation, ranging from pretending to be a narwhal and talking to inanimate objects back in 2018.
Now, Parkastopia, the Empire of Aeternia is a proud, independent nation who don't need no man. And let me just tell you something, we are the proud owls. So if you think you can just come around and not treat us absolutely with the most respect and the most niceness you have in your hearts, well then guess what? We'll come at you with these narwhal horns. So get ready.
To whatever this is supposed to be in 2024.
Aeternia forever!
And this is all further emphasised by their self-described anime intro. Stomaria takes the nation-building experience far more seriously than most, because what we are doing is serious, and having some level of self-respect and decorum attracts the right people. It doesn't mean we can't have fun or enjoy the nation-building experience, but if you're going to constantly act like a clown, don't be surprised if you end up surrounded by them. Aeternia is an absolute, non-hereditary monarchy that advocates for a unitary system of government with a homogeneous cultural identity in which only those that identify exclusively as Aeternians are permitted to become citizens. Stomaria is an absolute hereditary monarchy that advocates for a federal system of government with different cultures and identities throughout our ranks, with the inclusion of other nations and communities within the Empire as member states. Aeternia purchased over 3 acres of land in the opening months of 2022. To date, they've installed a driveway, they've been working on their first structure, which they define as a dwelling, for over 2 years at this point, and their attempt to grow food on the land over these years has proven largely unsuccessful.
No, well, it's not really big.
No, but look, I'm not gonna pick it. I'm not gonna pick it, but look at how long this one is. We had some that did grow. That's incredible. Whoa. Look at how long this one is. Whoa.
Stomaria purchased around 1/3 of an acre of land in the closing months of 2022. To date, the development of the land is nearing completion, with the clearing of the land, the installation of a driveway, the utilisation of renewable energy, collected rainwater and composted materials, 2 successful growing seasons in both 2023 and 2024, and the hosting of numerous meetings, gatherings and summits on the land itself. Aeternia only seems to define one activity as an industry of theirs, which is smelting. It has also sought to develop an energy system, in part by utilising old batteries and lights, including vaping pens and LED solar lights from garden lamps, but it's not clear what, if anything, this is used for. Stomaria, in addition to building up an agricultural industry, is also developing a sustainable forestry and apicultural industry. Aeternian citizens must make either a regular financial or labour-based contribution to retain their citizenship. It's not clear how many citizens Aeternia has, but it appears that 6 contribute to it financially. Stomarian citizens must make a financial contribution of any kind, be it a one-off or regular contribution, in line with our values and objectives regarding voluntary taxation. Stomaria has 42 citizens as of the 30th of June 2024, as per the quarterly report on our website. Aeternia is an advocate for fiat currency, believing it to be a far better medium of exchange than commodity money.
I want to tell you, for micronations in particular, but for all nations in general, fiat currencies are better long-term for stabilizing an economy and for building an economy than a representative currency or a currency backed by something could ever be.
They sell their own paper currency, but have stated that it can't actually be used to buy anything, even in Aeternia.
Very similar to what we do here in the Empire of Aeternia. Again, we have our notes for sale on the Imperial market, but they are simply as ways to support our nation and to support our growth. They are not a transactable medium. You know, we sell them to people for U.S. currency, but they cannot exchange them back to us for any good or service. It's not something that is in, as they call it, as you well put, circulation.
Stomaria is an advocate for commodity money, believing that governments and banks should not be trusted to control the flow of currency into the market, and that storing wealth in any currency that can simply be created out of thin air is utterly nonsensical. Added into the fact that every currency in history has had a 100% failure rate, whereas gold and silver still has immense purchasing power today, and has done so for thousands of years around the world because of their unique properties. It's not difficult to see why commodity money is better than fiat currency. Silver Stomarian staters, pure 999 fine silver coins and bars have been in circulation since 2021 and have been used ever more frequently as a medium of exchange for goods and services within the Empire and beyond. Aeternia doesn't have a definitive list of recognized allies on its website, but it has highlighted two in previous publications: Parkistopia, a self-defined Marxist-Leninist micronation,
and ceremonially, for special occasions, I usually prop up a couple flags for certain occasions, which are right there. Now, I just kind of used what I had at hand for today's little celebration, and they're being held by barbells.
And Draconia, a self-defined theocratic aristocracy that was initially set up as a race-based entity specifically for people that they refer to as the descendants of the African diaspora.
We needed a vehicle through which to help. But it wasn't just to help people that look like us, which, to be specific, children of the African diaspora. All right. Or descendants of the African diaspora. Or diaspora, however you want to pronounce it. And then eventually the rest of the world.
Stomaria doesn't have any external allies, but currently works alongside two member states of the Empire: the Kingdom of Wayward, that's looking to establish a self-reliant community with low-impact living that leans into pagan ideals, and the Republic of Vesta, another community that's likewise looking to become more self-reliant, but takes inspiration from the Roman Empire. And there we have it, an entirely subjective, biased and non-scientific comparison of Stomaria and Aeternia. Now, I would like to finish off this particular video by saying that there is clearly a checkered history between Stomaria and Aeternia, to say the least. There is, no doubt, some animosity still lingering, and the values and aspirations of Aeternia clearly contrast with Stomaria's. They are the antithesis of Stomaria's values and aspirations. But, with all of that, I do nevertheless wish Aeternia well for the future, because unlike a great many other entities out there, at least they're going out there and trying. If you want to learn more about Stomaria, or play an active role in our development and expansion, visit our website at www.stomaria.com and find out what it means to be a Stomarian.